Hey guys, it's Fuberduge, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers masterpiece MP-11 Starscream. And as you can see, I already have the box out here, and it's very big. So for a size comparison, here's my Skyward box. So yeah, it's really big. So taking a look at the box, you can see his nice art right there. You got the Takara Tomy logo, the masterpiece logo, and Japanese. So coming to the side, you got the masterpiece logo. You got a nice picture of Starscream shrugging, which I think is really cool. And then the masterpiece logo again. On the bottom, nothing really important. And then on the back, it just shows everything that he comes with, like a new head sculpt. This is the actual size, image, and just all of his various accessories. And then more Japanese. So, I believe that's about it for the box. So, I've already opened him, so let's get to the initial review. Here we have Starscream all ready to go in his plane mode, and I believe this is an F-15 Eagle, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But, as you know, there was a previous mold for Starscream, which was much more accurate in its plane form. So, taking a look at this plane, it's really good looking from the top, but as you go on the bottom, it's really blocky and you can kind of make out everything. The one thing that was superior on the previous one than this one was only in the vehicle mode, is where it was a lot more curvier and more organic looking, which is kind of what the actual F-15 is more like. But I believe that this is still an upgrade because of the look of the robot mode. So a few of the features he comes with is number one, this little hologram dude, and before he came with a Dr. Arkeville. So I think it's kind of cool that he has a hologram now. So opening up the canopy, you can put him in the cockpit, and he just sits in there. So that's really cool. I really do like that. And he does have a lot of realistic features on this jet, which is actually really cool. It retains a lot of the old stuff that it had from before. So first, you have the nose cone here that you can pop open, and I believe this is a radar dish. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not like a plane expert, so there is that. And then you can also open up, I think that's a windbreaker. And this metal pole right here is die-cast. So that's really cool. And as I said before, you can open the canopy to the cockpit. And you can move these flaps, and I believe that's just for good aerodynamics on the actual plane. And then these are null rays, and they peg in to the wing here, and you can just kind of move them however you want, but I'm just going to keep them pegged in. And he doesn't come with missiles just like the other old ones did. I'm not really too bummed about that because I never used them anyway. And coming to the back here, you can move these tail fins, but they come off really easily. Just like that, if you move them just a little bit. So be careful that you don't lose those, because I did have a previous MP-11 Starscream, and I did lose the wing, so I replaced it with this thing. So you can move around his thrusters. They're kind of, I think they're on ball joints. So you can move them around however you want, and then you can open this back compartment, which reveals a new feature on this one that's different than the old one. So that's really cool. Come around to the bottom. You have these landing gears, which I'll show how to put them in when we transform him. But I believe that's about it for his plane mode, or for all the features that you can do. And there's one thing that he didn't come with, but I have, and that's this piece. It's blue, but I'm not really too bummed about that. It was meant to carry Masterpiece Megatron, which I do have right here. So this one still has the hole on the bottom, so if you want to, you can take this and put this there, and then you can connect Masterpiece Megatron. I think you have to put up the landing gear first, so I might as well show you how to do that. You just open up this compartment, fold this in, and voila. So there we are. And there's one episode he did do that in the cartoon, so you can do that still if you have another Masterpiece Seeker. So taking this off, I'm going to just set this off to the side and put the landing gear back down so he can sit. And the landing gears are really cool. They're all on wheels, and so he does roll. Not that that's super important, but he can still roll, which is really nice. So, now we're just going to get to size comparison. So, setting Starscream right there. Here he is with his buddy Thundercracker, and they're the exact same mold. Just a straight up different repaint. There are actually quite a few differences in terms of like similar paint apps. As you can see, the stripes on Thundercracker, although they're the same color as Starscream, the red is much fatter, and I believe the white is a little bit fatter too. And then the Decepticon symbols on Thundercracker are facing upward in terms of how they're facing against the camera now, whereas Starscream's are upside down, which I always thought was kind of interesting. So, and he has a lot more like little paint apps like that, and then a few things here, and like the Sonic Boom, whereas Starscream is just a plain jet, and then he also has a Decepticon logo right there, and Thundercracker does not. So, there are the differences between those two, and they don't set me off very much, because I actually don't really mind it, because they're still the same base mode, it's just different paint apps. So, that doesn't really bug me very much. So anyway, taking off Thundercracker, here he is with his old former buddy, Generations Jetfire. Relatively the same size, actually, and even in robot mode. Starscream's, I'd say about 2 inches longer, and you can kind of see the vast differences between the types of planes that they are, because he's more modeled, I believe, after something like an F-22, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm really bad with plane stuff, but I know for sure he's an F-15. But anyway, very cool looking team. I know that he's not meant to scale with Masterpiece, but I still kind of like pairing them up together just because it's Starscream and Jetfire, and in the G1 cartoon they were buddies back on Cybertron, but then of course Jetfire became an Autobot, so then they became like mortal enemies or something like that. But anyway, taking Jetfire off. So anyway, let's get down to transformation. So the first thing you want to do is, what I like to do is just take this guy out, because sometimes he gets tangled up in there, but you can leave him in there if you want to, but I don't really like to do that, so I'm not going to do that. So first, I'm just going to fold up the landing gears. These just fold in just like that, and you already saw me do this, but just flipping that panel up and putting that in. Closing that back up, it's really clean, and it doesn't have any kibble or anything hanging out like that. So then what you can do is just kind of flip these up if you would like, and then next you just really want to tug on these legs so they can come out, and they'll come out just like that. And then you could fold these flaps down, but before you do that, you want to unpeg the null rays from these peg holes right there, and you can just fold these flush against the back of the wing, just like so. And then what you want to do is, these wings are like tabbed into 5 million different places in here. So I'm just gonna, you have to be really forceful and kind of gentle so you don't break anything. But it does come out if you just kind of wiggle it. So again, wiggling, just kind of like that, and it comes out very securely and unworriedly, so you don't have to worry about breaking anything. So then what you can do is just kind of come under here, and you want to kind of untab this whole bit so you can swing it up like that. And then you can just kind of split the legs because they were tabbed together. You can see a peg right there, and then there's a hole back there. And then you can take these bits and just slide them up. And that's another new thing on this mold, and you can see better this way. Just fold it up like that. And these wings were kind of out, so you just put them against the side just like that. And then another new thing with the legs was, as I said earlier, this wasn't something new. It acts as a heel spring out, because one of the major problems with the legs before is that they were unstable, so it just couldn't stand, and you always fell backwards. So that's a really cool, innovative touch to this new figure. And then just folding out the feet, you want to flip it down like so, and then just rotate it. And the legs are pretty much done now. So I'm gonna have to raise my camera so you can see what I'm doing, because things get pretty big from here on out. So you can just kind of fold out the arms, and actually before you want to do that, you probably want to move the wings out of the way. So there are little tabs right here that you can just flip out like that, and they act as kind of pegs to peg into the slots up in there. So same thing on this wing, and sometimes they're really hard to get out, but they will come out. And then you want to flip that up and just tab that in. Same thing here, and it just tabs in, and you just push it, and the wings will stay. And make sure this doesn't tab back in, because it likes to sometimes. So coming around to the front, now you can kind of rotate out this, and at the same time, like it's kind of in like this, you want to hold this and hold the forearm separately. Just kind of rotate it out like that and keep this facing forward, just like that. Same thing right here. And then you can take the wrists or the whole hand and just kind of move it down like that. And same thing right here. And you can kind of have his arms almost done, but before this whole section comes down, what you want to do is kind of ratchet this up like that, and sometimes the wings come untabbed. And then you kind of take this middle section, and this is all newly remolded in there. So this untabs, and you can just kind of swivel it on a double hinge down until it's down and into kind of the crotch piece. And so then what you can do is kind of flipping him around. He's kind of a fiddly mess, but he does really settle well after you got the whole transformation done. So this whole thing kind of unpegs, but you don't want to turn it like all the way at first because his head has to come through. And the head is a totally new mold, and what's really cool about it, and it's really dark on the camera, but what's really cool about it is it has spring-loaded ears, so it like fits right through this gap up here, like extremely perfectly. So then what you can do is you kind of want to open the cockpit and then kind of turn that down and then flip this in, close the cockpit up, and then rotate this. And this whole kind of pull thing right here is die cast, and that's really cool. Always love it when they include die cast in these figures. So you want to make sure again that this isn't tabbed in so you can fit the nose cone through here. And just kind of rotating this, you want to at the same time just kind of fit this through so it doesn't, or the whole thing can fit through. So again, rotating this down, his head got stuck. That's weird. Just pop that up through this hole. This whole thing just got stuck on me. So usually his head just comes all the way through. There we go. His head was just totally stuck there for a second. That's actually never happened to me before. But anyway, as I said before, you want to just kind of rotate this on the double hinge, and then this can come all the way down just like that. And then you want to rotate this, push it in like that, and then there's a hole, the same hole that blue peg went into that I showed you to attach Megatron's gun. There's a peg right here that tabs in and keeps the hole back secure like so. And this thing was transforming without me. So these were up like that, and you probably want to rotate the null rays, and we'll align those the way that they're supposed to be aligned in a little bit. But this whole mechanism rotates down, the same here, and then this just slides down just like that. And so straightening everything out, and kind of straighten out his arms, and the null rays you can position however you want. I'm just going to go with the classic look. And with the wings, you can either have them flared out like that or pushed all the way back in. I like it that way, but for the sake of the review, I'll just keep it flared out because that's how all of his product shots are. So, and these panels, you can have them either way. I like to push them in at the top so they kind of flare out like that. But I think that's about it for the transformation. So, ladies and gentlemen, there is the new MP-11 masterpiece, Starscream. I'm just going to readjust my camera because I bumped it. But anyway, really cool. Really, really cool looking robot. Definitely makes up for kind of the missing organic look of the jet. This is a major upgrade from the previous Starscream mold, so I'm very, very satisfied with the way this Starscream looks. Really good addition to your masterpiece collection. It just really, really blows away the first mold. So, for articulation, it's really good. It's pretty much the same as the old one, but since he doesn't have all the kibble that he used to have, he can move a lot better. So, of course, his head is still on a ball joint, and that can kind of rotate however you want to do. And then he kind of has a rotating thing here due to the transformation, just so you can fit his head through. But he can technically rotate his head all the way around, but because of these intakes, he can't really do that. And speaking of the intakes, you have two options with these. You can leave them back like this, or you can move them forward, and that's more of a cartoon accurate look. And so I'm actually going to keep it like that. And that kind of hinders his head movement even more. So it's not too bad, but it doesn't really bother me. So, one thing that is kind of a pain is the shoulder. I mean, this thing doesn't really tab in, so you can see it moves up. And so I can't really move this freely. It kind of does, but not really, so I have to hold this whole thing just to move his arm. So, theoretically, it could move 360 degrees, but the wing blocks everything. So, that's not that bad of a predicament there. But he can rotate out, and fairly decent length. I mean, that's actually really good. And then he can rotate at the bicep. He can bend at the elbow. He has a double hinge at the elbow, so he can bend his elbow very realistically. And his hand can rotate, and his fingers are individually articulated. Excuse me. I wish that, like, Masterpiece is kind of defaulted to like the Optimus Prime kind of hands, where the thumb just doesn't move at all. But this thumb is on a ball joint, and I really miss that. And then these fingers are also on like 2 joints, and I really wish they'd go back to that, because I think Starscream is some of the best hands out of the Masterpiece line. Like, I know that some of these third-party companies are coming out with like all individually articulated fingers, which I'm all for. I wish Masterpiece would do that, but I don't think they will. I just wish they'd go back to this, because this works very well. So anyway, the fingers themselves are on ball joints, and it's kind of hard to see, but there are ball joints in there. And so these 3 fingers are connected, and they bend at the ball joint, and they bend right in the middle like that. And you can just move the thumb however you want. He can point, so you can get him in that kind of a pointing pose. And pretty much the same thing, the pointer finger bends right in the middle. So that's cool. And he can't really rotate at the waist. Technically he could, because he has a joint back here, but there's just too much crap in the way, so you can't really do anything like that. And you can position the no-ray however you want. You can flare it out like that. You can just kind of rotate it however you want. So you can do whatever you want with the no-ray. And for the legs, you can bend out, and you kind of want to move the wing out of the way so it doesn't move the wing. But he can bend out about that far, not too far, just because the hip kibble kind of gets in the way. He can rotate at the upper thigh. He can bend backwards, not very far. He can bend forwards, pretty decently far actually, because the hip pieces right here kind of move to align with the upper thigh. He can bend at the knee, and he does have a double knee joint. It's really hard because it's a really tough ratchet, so it does bend at 2 places there. It's really hard to see. And he does kind of move his toes, and they can rotate like so. Not really too much, and the heels just don't move at all. So that's about it for the articulation. Pretty good, pretty posable. Again, all Masterpiece figures are, except for Masterpiece Megatron, which I have a very interesting story about, which would be way too long to tell, but long story short, the Masterpiece Megatron I sold got returned to me, so I have him back, so I can do a size comparison. So, speaking of size comparisons, we're going to set Starscream right there. Here he is with Masterpiece Soundwave. Very, very good scale for those two. Soundwave is a bit taller, which is how it should be. I always did picture Soundwave taller than Starscream, so that's really cool. So taking Soundwave off, here he is with Thundercracker again. Again, the exact same mold, just a different repaint. And another difference that you can probably tell is that Thundercracker has red streak paint apps on his shoulders, whereas Starscream has absolutely nothing, which I'm not too mad about. And then one thing that's really interesting is his cockpit color is like cartoon accurate, whereas his is kind of a green color, which I don't really like. I might have to like go to a shop and like fix that or something. But yeah, same exact mold. They look really good together. And I forgot to put these forward, so just to kind of similarize them. Very good looking team, and I will get the new Masterpiece SW Skywarp, the MP-11 mold. A lot of people complain that it's way too expensive, but honestly, to complete the Seekers, I think it's worth it. That's just my opinion, but I will get the Skywarp, so they're all going to be complete, which I think will be very cool. So, taking off Thundercracker, here he is with Generations Skywarp without all of his chrome crap. he's still taller than Starscream, which kind of surprises me. It's very interesting that Jetfire is taller than Starscream. And he's not even meant to be a Masterpiece figure. He's just a Generations. But I still think that they look pretty good together. I know Jetfire was supposed to be really, really big. But it doesn't bother me. I like these two together. I think he might actually fit with, like, a Starscream this size, which would be the classic Starscream, which I do not have, unfortunately. But I still think that this doesn't look that bad. So, taking off Jetfire, and you make some room here. Here is with Megatron. We need a new Masterpiece Megatron. Luckily, I'm getting Apollyon, that X-Transbots figure that's coming out, which I'm very happy about because I've already pre-ordered him and everything. So that's another review that will be coming your way. Evolution. So anyway, I did promise in my Soundwave review that I would show off him holding Megatron. So here's the big boss himself. Just gonna open up Starscream's hand. See if I can actually fit this in here. I might have to extend this. I'm pretty sure he can fit. He might actually be able to fit without me extending him. Maybe not. I spoke too soon. There we go. Come on. There we are. Epicness. That's just cool. That is awesome. Starscream was always the one who was holding Megatron, which never really made sense to me. But that is just wickedly cool. Can remake the G1 movie scene where every Autobot that we love dies. That's just cool. That is just too cool. Really glad that he can actually fit in Starscream's hand. Another thing that you could do with him for weapons is booby bombs. I always thought those were just the weirdest things ever. But, you just have missiles in here or something like that. That's like painted white. It's kind of a weird white paint. It works though. It's not that bad of a feature, but it's kind of awkward, but it works. So, yeah. Now we come to the main point of this review, which is why a lot of people were so willing to buy this set, is because not only do you come with a revamped Starscream, and one thing they did have to ditch to get this thing to kind of fit in the whole packaging and everything was the Coronation set. So, just kind of taking everything out here. Here are the shoulder pads. Here's the big cape. And here is the crown, which is very, very, very cool. Really chromy, really shiny. Just really, really cool. It's really shiny, actually. It's really coming off super bright on my camera. But anyway, setting that there. To prepare him to be coronated, what you want to do is fold these back, because if you don't fold those back, the crown won't fit on his head. So, first thing I'm going to do is just take these shoulder pads here, and up here there are slots right there, which actually the original mold did have, and I don't even know why they would put those there. Maybe they're hinting at a Coronation set coming out. But anyway, these can go on there, like that. Same thing here. And one thing that's really cool is those holes are kind of hooked to mechanisms. So if you kind of rotate his arm like this can move down. So if you move his arm up, it kind of accommodates the arm movement, and it's just super cool that it can do that. But for now, I'm just going to put his arm back to his base mode. So there are the shoulder pads, and really cool. I don't know how well this is coming off on camera, but these purple shoulder pads kind of have like a glinty, glossy paint. It kind of has like sparkles in it. So that's really cool. And now we come to the cape, which is really cool in itself. A lot of people were surprised that it wasn't actual cloth because it's plastic, as you can hear. But this thing just pegs onto the back of Starscream, but it has ball joints, so this thing can move up, which is really, really, really cool. So it does. Yeah, I might have to put some floor polish on that because it just falls down under its own weight. But one thing that is really cool that does actually work is this thing can flare out, and this will rotate, so like it'd be like this, so like he's standing in the wind. So that's really cool. So to attach this thing, just turning around Starscream, you can see this bit, the top fits perfectly right in here. So kind of leaning him down so you can see what I'm doing. This just slides right onto here. I can get it. There we go, and see, it fits just perfectly. So that's what he looked like right before Astro Train put the crown on his head. So for the crowning moment, no pun intended, here is the crown. You just put it right on there. Fits perfectly. I'm speechless. This thing is just so wickedly cool. It looks phenomenal. It just blows me away. This thing is sublime. And I use that word to its full meaning. This thing just looks so epic. It fully captures the G1 movie scene where Starscream is becoming the new leader, and he has all of his coronation gear, and he has the whole ceremony going. Just so cool. And you can even make it look even cooler by flaring this thing out. Look at that. Just look at that. That is coolness. And I kind of had a fear because I thought he was going to fall over because of the cape, but he won't. Just so cool. And I'm going to try this, but I highly doubt it's going to work. Yeah, I was right. Unfortunately, Starscream won't have his cape flare out, but I'll have this thing rotate, and that's cool. And I'm going to try to get him into his classic pose. And this pose was actually on his box art. There we are. So cool. Just too cool. So cool. So, there is actually one thing I did forget, which I actually usually forget, but, he did come with a booklet. Yay! This thing isn't really that exciting, but since it's a review, I suppose I should run over it real quick. So just kind of untaping everything. I don't think I've opened this thing yet, but I kind of have an idea of what's in here. Obviously, there was the booklet, and then you can see this card in here, which is actually a lot thinner than I thought it would be. As you can see, it bends really easily. Some of those third-party companies have much better cards than Takara or Hasbro does. But you can see the tech specs, the two modes, probably a bio of some sort. Anyway, the whole art right there, which is actually really cool. So setting that off to the side, and actually taking this off because I got it taped into my background. But you have that same art here, which looks really cool. You have the Starscream leader, the masterpiece, yada yada yada. Instructions, your basic instructions, and it has the picture of his coronation, and here's a picture of his booby bombs. So, if you were wondering, that is a real episode where that happened, but it only happened once. But they still decided to include it, and then there it shows off his vehicle mode, and that's really cool. And then that's Dr. Arkeville. You can't really see him very well, but it is Dr. Arkeville. So, and here you have a bunch of different product shots of Starscream. Just like that were on the back of the box, actually. So anyway, there is that booklet, and I believe that's it. We are done, folks. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please check out some of our other Transformers reviews, and also I have a few stop motion videos out if you want to check those out. You can just search my channel on YouTube. But besides that, I want to thank you again for watching. So this is Fuberduge saying, keep playing, guys.